My name is Roma. This is Zimlove, a podcast about Zimbabwe. Here I'm sharing interesting stories through people that I've met and want to show you a side of this country that an internet search cannot. Enjoy.
Dance is life. Dance is life. I mean, if you really let yourself go and no inhibition and everything, you feel connected, body and soul.
Welcome to this new episode of Zimlove. This episode is with Soukaina. Soukaina is what I would say a queen of dance in Zimbabwe. I met her when I was taking one of her classes at the Friendship Bench in Mount Pleasant this year, and I enjoyed it so much. So I thought it's really about time to make an episode on dance in Zim. Soukaina, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
So would you mind maybe briefly introducing yourself?
Okay, so I am Soukaina. That's how I'm known in the art sector. I'm from the French Caribbean, born in Paris, the island of Guadeloupe. That's where my origins are from. And my French name is Marie-Laure, but everybody, and I think it's easier in the Anglophone world to call me Soukaina. I've been in Zimbabwe almost 30 years. Next year will be 30 years. I am a dance practitioner. I was trained in Guadeloupe, in France, and in New York in various disciplines, but the chosen technique that I do, it's modern jazz and contemporary Afrofusion. I have my organization called AfriKera Arts Trust.
I just wanted to ask you about this. It's the known name here. I know you educate dancers, you very much into gender equality. What are the pillars of AfriKera Dance Trust?
AfriKera Arts Trust. People often make that mistake because they say Soukaina is dance. No, it's Arts Trust because AfriKera is the hat. And in AfriKera, there is the AfriKera Professional Dance Training, the AfriKera Dance Theater, the Essence of Women Dance Ensemble, the Outreach Program, and the AfriKera Collective for young dancers who are interested in choreographing. So yes, the AfriKera Professional Dance Training is a 3-year dance training. And it's very holistic because yes, the focus is dance, but they also have anatomy English, they have physical theater, music, voice, percussion, okay? And also branding, marketing, life skills, all these disciplines that can complete a human being actually, because dancers are human beings. So they have to be ready after the 3 years to somehow understand how it works. With the English subject, they are taught how to build their portfolio, their CV, read a contract, They also have financial literacy, very important, okay? And usually the training, they work with live budget, you have so much, you have to produce your own solo, how much for costumes, rehearsals, whatever, things like that. So it's very complete. When they come out of there, they have
ready.
They should be ready. Even though the learning never stops. I tell them, even myself, I continue learning.
And the people who participate in the program, are they from everywhere in society? Or is the program targeted at specific young people?
Okay, so yes, the target, it's youth from the high densities, but it's not exclusive, okay? I welcome also people who are from, let's say, the north suburb, but they are not really forthcoming, actually. So it's mostly the youth from the high densities. For example, let's say that I have 10 students. Among them, there might be 2 that are from the low densities, let's say. Also, we require 5 O-levels, but often we are not getting that. Sometimes we had youth that are academically challenged. Still, I see that on a case by case because since the entry to AfriKera is through audition, it's not like because you want to dance, you're going to get into AfriKera. No, it's through audition. You have to have somehow a dance background, be it traditional hip-hop or otherwise, Usually it's traditional and hip-hop, but I did have some who kind of know how to move in a more contemporary way, let's say, or that have affinities with contemporary style, yeah.
If I would be a young person, I love dance, but I've never came that far from a very rural area in Germany where I grew up with my parents migrating from Poland. It was not on the plate.
But my first ballet teacher was from Poland, huh? And she danced in the Bolshoi, but that was in Paris when I was at the Académie Internationale de la Danse.
Yeah. So you are originally from Guadeloupe, which is the West Indies.
Yes, so I'm born in Paris 15e, the 15th district of Paris. But my parents are from the French Caribbean, the island of Guadeloupe.
And then now you are here.
Now I'm here. You're going to ask how? Well, the father of my children is Zimbabwean.
Okay, a common thing to go, with this kind of motivation, let's say.
Exactly.
So when we talk about dance in Zimbabwe and you have people from mainly the high density that come with their own maybe home-trained experience, what is special about the pool of young people when they start dancing at AfriKera and maybe when you have a beginner's class in Paris? What do you see that you say, oh, this is just Zimbabwean? Is it more traditional? Is it also different from other African countries maybe?
No, there is similarities with the African countries. In February, I was in Sierra Leone to help with the setting up a dance program for a music academy. And they were introduced to contemporary, so I was teaching floor bar, to mold their bodies in a different way so that they get a bit more of a ballet technique without killing the energy, the impromptuness of their body. And they all had very good in hip-hop, Afro-urban, and traditional dance. So that's the same here because some of them either were part of Chipao. I don't know if you know Chipao, Children Performing Art Workshop. I even put my boys there when I arrived in Zimbabwe. I have 2 sons, yes. In order for them to be immersed in their Zimbabwean culture since their father is Zimbabwean. So some of them were enrolled in the program of Chipao, and others, sometimes at school there is a dance club. So usually they might do Afro-urban, but they can do also some traditional dance. So when they come to AfriKera, it's a discovery for them because now they are introduced to ballet, to modern jazz. They can see that the discipline, they have to discipline their mind and their body to do something that is, let's say, uncomfortable in order to mold it a certain way. When we do a pizza or a tart, a pie or something, you mold the dough to be a certain way. So it's the same. We are molding the bodies so that their body can do more and be versatile and be receptive in order for their movement vocabulary to be widened. Because they will have, like I said, ballet, floor bar, fitness also, because fitness is now in the regimen of the dance training. So they would have that. Then even karate and capoeira. Capoeira is a fighting dance from Brazil, okay?
Why karate in the dance training?
Because I find the katas quite choreographic. I like to watch those
action movies.
Yeah, Crouching Tigers, all these. I like more the historic kind, because I love the costumes. Of course, it's not realistic when you see those guys flying in the air. Yeah. But because I find it quite choreographic. And capoeira, we can see that in the vocabularies of the capoeiristas, you can see the similarities with hip-hop, And I don't know how, sometimes it's like maybe unconsciously in the human DNA, because those young urban guys in the streets of the big cities in the States, it's not like they went to Brazil or they know capoeira and everything, but the movements, some movements are in the DNA. Even, for example, because I have a program called Ngano, where I'm trying to build a bridge between traditional storytelling from Zimbabwe and Guadeloupe and wider French Caribbean. And we have some similarities, even in some dance movement. For example, there is a Zimbabwean traditional dance called Mende, and in the traditional dance of Guadeloupe, which is Groka, we also have a dance called Mende.
How did that come about?
Well, I guess, when there was the slave trade, they kept some of their roots, fortunately.
Is there something you would say is specifically Zimbabwean? Like if, let's say I would be a young dance enthusiast and I would like to do like a dance residency here or just to train myself in dance in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
What would I learn or how could I prepare?
What you would learn is to open your mind of all the things that your body can do with various techniques, with various cultures. Because I always tell the students, Zimbabwe is not the only country in the world. Know your continent, first of all, and then know the world. In any case, the fact that I am not Zimbabwean, I am from another country, and I speak to them with, a French accent, I'm told, though I don't hear it.
No, I don't hear it either. Yeah. People also tell me I have a German accent, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So we are creolizing each other. There are some things that are from the Zimbabwean culture that now I adopt, maybe like some expression like "eish" or something like that, And themselves, they also, because of the fact that they are in contact with me, take some little French habits, let's say, in language. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. How you then start adapting to each other.
Yeah, usually they do that to tease me, but, it's great because I have two dancers who actually spent 1 month in Belgium. That was an exchange program with the Conservatoire Royal de Bruxelles and AfriKera. And because their ears were used to Francophone
accents,
yeah. And one of them is quite open and willing to learn. So, now with smartphone and everything, you can translate whatever you want to say. So sometimes she would send me little things in French and be open to have a pen pal.
And when you say to them, know your continent, I don't know your opinion. I feel when I look at, let's say, music videos these days, I always loved watching music videos.
Yeah.
There's a stronger African dance influence right now. In popular, also American culture. Where do you see African dance right now on the total portfolio, on, the everyday pop culture, but also in like high culture of like dance productions?
My philosophy, when I started AfriKera is that I do not want it to be Western. I'm not trying even to impose my culture here. But I always tell them, in order for Zimbabwean contemporary style of dance, you have to know your traditional dance. That's why the traditional dance component is quite important at AfriKera, with the songs and the percussion and the dance. Southern Africa, they also learn from Botswana dance, Mozambican dance and everything, and Western African dance from Guinea, from Senegal, and etc. So for me, that's very important because I explained to them that the Senegalese contemporary dance will be infused with movements from their traditional dance, Sabar and all the other dance. And Zimbabwe should be the same. And they do that naturally, actually. We also have in the program classical Indian dance, Bharatnatyam and Kathak. So they have notions of those two. And because their vocabulary widen, when they create something, you might see some Indian classical dance movements and everything. Bollywood also. So one of their teachers, who is graduates of AfriKera, went for 3 years to study Bharatnatyam and is there right now to study Kathak, because these are the two forms. But in between, when he came back and we performed at Moto Republic for the festival Shoko, we opened the festival with a piece that he called Zollywood instead of Bollywood. It was modernized and everything, but it was a first because they hadn't seen that, the audience. And it was great.
So there's this cultural mix coming into
Yes.
Zimbabwean dance and Zimbabwean dance forming its own style.
Yes.
And how do you see the presence on the big stages in the world? Like, because you said, there's more of a classical training usually, right? Like contemporary ballet. And is there more of like an African dance notion coming in on a global level?
The influence of African dance is there. There is no doubt about that. But now, because the world is a global village, there is other influence. Like I see beautiful contemporary dance from Asia, for example, Korea, Japan, and I love the way they move and everything. And I was in Japan actually last year because I have a friend of mine who used to be here through JICA. And because she was a dancer.
JICA is the Japanese cultural institution.
So she was taking my dance classes here. And then, of course, I integrated her into the Essence of Women Dance Company. And so when I went to Japan last year, of course, she wanted me to teach. And she had an African dance, but taught by a Japanese. The husband and wife, The husband was the percussionist. And the wife, the dance trainer.
It's nice that you say that because I was taking at the friendship branch a class in flamenco. And the teacher is Japanese. I'm like, oh yeah, the world is a village. A German taking a flamenco class in Zimbabwe, taught by a Japanese.
But remember, so we did a collaboration with the Alliance Française when the compagnie Danse came from France. And performance was about the journey of dance throughout the world. And they usually have their flamenco dancer coming with them. But it wasn't possible. So I called her and I say, this is the situation. Are you willing and able? So she came right away. And we had a Japanese flamenco singer during the performance at the Alliance Française. Okay, so with that collaboration, Danse and AfriKera. So that was great.
So my question aims at a static world. But you are emphasizing that contemporary is not necessarily Western and African influences don't necessarily come from Africa. And what is danced in Africa is not necessarily just African dance, but the specializations are coming from everywhere. So the best in their field do not have to be from the region where the dance originates.
Well, you have people who are doing good African dance and they learned it, and they are from another country. Actually, I have one friend who does teach African dance and she's from Spain and we met in Tanzania. But she did l'École des Sables, Germaine Acogny's program and everything. So she can transmit the Germaine Acogny style, But that's a technique that Germaine Acogny developed. But the traditional dance that is not contained, There are many teachers who... And here we have Catherine Douglas, who is an alumni of the Dance Foundation course.
Again, from an outsider, when we talk about traditional African dance.
Yeah.
I've been to Benin once, so I know West African dance is more, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but I'm just going for it. You may be a bit low and you use your arms and your chest. And then when I was in South Africa, the costumes are different and it's more footwork oriented, maybe if I can call that. Where is Zimbabwe traditional dance identified in the diversity of the continent?
It depends of the country. I don't want to box them because I'm not also a specialist of African traditional dance.
But more than I am.
But there is footwork dance. If you see the dance from Burundi and Rwanda, and Zimbabwe has a lot of footwork dance. Of course, there is the gambut also that the miners were usually doing that dance. So it is more of a modern way of dance that emerged from the modern way of living, from workers from the mines. And you have the traditional dance where you use the mashwai and everything on the feet to produce sounds and rhythm in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, in South Africa, in Rwanda, Burundi. So there's a lot of footwork. And in Ivory Coast also, the Zauli dances, they do intricate steps very fast. Sometimes when I look at them, my legs are sore. I'm like, gosh, these guys. Also, I will say women are now investing the space. For example, drummers were mostly men, okay? But at AfriKera, everybody learns percussion, and we have some good female percussionists that came out of there.
So the accompanying instrument mostly is percussion.
Yeah, and of course there is bira, there is marimba, but it is important for me that they learn the rhythm, yes, so they all do percussion. I mean, they learn all this, and then you have your preferences, whatever you're going to be good at. So even though they learn all this dance technique, but some might direct themselves more towards traditional or more towards contemporary or more towards more balletic, neoclassical or something. And same with music. It's like a doctor, studying medicine. So you do the general, and then after that you have to do your specialization.
Again, the whole holistic concept.
Mm-hmm. And some might teach more than they would perform, for example. Yeah. And some might choreograph more than they would teach. A good dancer is not necessarily a good teacher or a good choreographer, and vice versa.
Like a good professor is not necessarily a good teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
At the university context.
Yeah.
And what is your experience on what dance can do to your mind?
Dance is life. Dance is life. I mean, if you really let yourself go and no inhibition and everything, you feel connected, body and soul. And for example, you can come with your problems and everything. I mean, I know for myself, I might have challenging issues or day or whatever, but once I come and teach or dance, I forget that. Then it might come back when I finish the class, but And in this world where you have a lot of depression and mal-être, as we say, it's very helpful. So I would recommend everybody out there who don't feel right, in their mind, meaning that depressed, sadness or whatever, to come and dance. I guess it's because of serotonin and dopamine and, all those happy hormones.
Yeah, I also think maybe adrenaline.
Yeah, also.
I was also doing a little workshop on journaling. It was about finding your passion.
Yeah.
And I start them also with a little dance exercise.
Yeah,
but I'm not a dancer, but I am a teacher.
Yeah.
So I started either for now with voguing or with twerking. But I'm not a twerker, but it doesn't matter.
But twerking, you can see in African dance, to move the lower part of your body, isolate it, it's also very important. Mm-hmm. Of course, the connotation is very different from this modern trend of twerking. And there are some male dance in certain African countries who also do the movement of the waist, So twerking, let's say that it's a modern way of doing it. The meaning is different from what it is supposed to be in the traditional dance.
What I wanted just to point out is that I tried to do it in the beginning to put up level of energy, because journaling is something you sit and you think.
Yeah, I would have liked to take that class. Why not?
The mind back to the body.
Yeah.
And to create a small element of fear.
Yeah. Of fear.
I call it fear, or maybe you can call it discomfort.
Yeah.
Because mostly none of us is a dancer, but it's about presenting yourself in a way that you probably have not.
Yeah.
So in voguing is the kind of arrogance,
attitude,
and you are provoking that.
Yeah.
And in twerking as well, this like very out there dance of showing yourself. So it's just 5 minutes to a very strong beat. But then when everybody sits down, the energy is at the highest.
Yeah. Because also it is said that in the pelvis you hold a lot of emotion. I go to the gym and everything. You have to keep the hips mobile, know. And they said that sometimes people cry when they release all this emotion that is somehow retained there because, for example, the neck and shoulders also we retain some emotion, whatever. So it's also the same thing with the pelvis. And I noticed that in my class when I do isolation, where you have to move the different part of the body separately, for example, your neck without moving anything else, your torso without moving anything else, your shoulders and your pelvis. So usually there is always giggle because they're like, oh gosh, that's not as simple as it is, When we see the dombolo, with the Congolese dance, rumba and everything, I mean, it's great the way they move it, And I mean, we have it here also with this group called Banadesas that do dombolo and, concert and everything. And when you see the dances, you're like, gosh, In Senegal, one of the Senegalese dance that women do, it's called the ventilateur, the fan.
Mm-hmm.
They might put a scarf or whatever, but because they move their hips and you see the scarf turning like a fan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
By the way, I put all the information about AfriKera also in the description of the episode.
Okay.
So people can also check it out.
Yeah, okay.
I was thinking now that element also in your class, because there was a moment where we were supposed to walk back and forth in the room. And I kind of like that, not necessarily because I think I'm good, but I enjoy the small element of discomfort.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to bring me more to myself in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you see, in my class, sometimes I give simple movements, like walking, okay?
Yes.
And suddenly people are like,
how do I walk? Like both arms or like opposite?
You walk in the street, you don't even realize, you just do it. But then I say, the posture is important. It will change how you walk. Also, are you walking like a duck? Are you, you see the models, the way they learn how to walk. For example, it's a different walk, but there is a certain coordination to have. Same on the dance floor. When you do a dance class, I do the simple things first. So for you to understand that there is coordination in very simple things that you take for granted. From there, when you know your right and left, then we can, start something.
On the AfriKera website, I think I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
In your program, there's also the notion of gender equality and inviting women more into the space.
Yeah.
Can you maybe describe what kind of inequality exists and how you are dealing with it?
In the Western part, in the dance class, you see more women than men. Here in Zimbabwe and in Africa in general, I noticed that among the black population, it's mostly guys who are dancing. You will see that more. So at AfriKera, we are trying to make sure that we attract the girls as well, that it is also a career that they can undertake. But often girls, they might start and then drop out because either they get pregnant or the family pressure is much more on them than it would be on a boy, though I'm not saying that boys are not getting pressure, for example, if the family is not supportive. But we are getting there, though. At the beginning, before doing AfriKera, I was also doing a dance training program at the National Ballet. Sometimes I had to go and talk to the parents. Now I don't have to. Parents are on board because there is a precedence. They saw there was Tumbuka Dance Company before. That was the first contemporary dance company here in Zimbabwe. They were operating at the National Ballet. Some members are still there. I did integrate some, who are teaching either for AfriKera or some are abroad and etc. And then the other dancers that are trained, I might have had their brothers after that, their sisters and everything. I have several families like that I had. Like the big brother was there, then the little brother came, then the sister, whatever, or the daughter or son after, because now those guys are big. So it's becoming easier now, but to have girls, Now the thing is that after graduating, can they pursue the career? Because, some might do the training and then they might not pursue because then they realize it's not that easy. Of course, don't sit and wait for things to fall on your lap. You have to be out there, work, Also, they know that AfriKera is always there to try to support, and we have the professional dance company. So whenever there is project, I call on the AfriKerians. I audition them again because it's not because you are an AfriKerian that you're going to be automatically in, because if you don't continue training your body, then what you gained in 3 years might take 2 months to flop, you know. So it's easier, the gender aspect of it. At some point, I managed to get, let's say, 51% of female presence at AfriKera among the students. And usually now the quota might be like there is 2 girls less than boys, for example, you know.
So the challenge when you talk about pressures is that, as you said, they might get pregnant, but also that it used to be hard for the parents to see a future for the girl when they dance.
And for the boys too, huh?
What are the challenges when they want to become professionals?
Is that they have to keep it up. That's why we have those subjects of English, financial literacies and everything. Because otherwise there is a tendency to wait on AfriKera and Soukaina again when you graduate to give you work. No, I mean, we are trying to equip you, okay, so that you go out there. Of course, when I have opportunities, you know, it's always them that I think about, you know. So, for example, like this exchange in Brussels, like the Ngano project that we are doing, you know, if there are different teaching requests in Zimbabwe, or let's say more like in the Harare urban area, then of course people contact me and I'm like, okay, yes, I can dispatch this person, this person, this person, or also request for some performance. If I cannot deal with it myself, I will tell them, here is the contact of the person who made the request, negotiate and everything. Of course, if I take it on, then AfriKera is the one administrating this. So they can see when I tell them, here it is, that is difficult. It's not easy because people still think that dancers don't need to be paid, or they can be paid peanuts or things like that. So, and it's difficult in Zimbabwe because the artist status is not recognized as a profession. In Europe, in France, for example, they have union, you know, intermittent du spectacle, voilà. So dance, theater, music, all this are put together. So like that, there are regulations so that they cannot be paid less than the hourly rate. They also pay for their taxes and everything so that they can benefit from retirement, you know. But here we are very far from all that. It takes also the government to be interested in doing this. Yes, it is recognized that performing art is part of the curriculum now, be it dance, theater, or music. Music always had a big chunk of it. Then theater. Dance, it was mostly considered as club, okay? But now, I guess, you know, traditional dance can be taught. Also, I have some graduates who are teaching now in some schools that take that seriously. So from primary to secondary. They have some schools have programs and budget for that. Yes.
So there are challenges, other challenges even here than, for example, in Germany, to take it to a professional level. I also feel like with my students, when I talk to them about German, sometimes they feel like, oh, it's just something that I'm doing for the grades or to pass. It's not about passing.
Sometimes they have skills that they don't know about. That's why even at AfriKera, for example, one might be interested in doing lighting for the shows, okay? So actually, for lighting and sound, I have in-house dancers who can do it, or some teachers who can do it, because they are interested in it. That's a skill. And if there is some short training here, I always encourage them to go to do that. Of course, to learn another language, like I said, they are a bit influenced by the fact that I'm Francophone and everything, because I tell them, do you want to only teach in Shona? Is Shona going to serve you if you get something, for example, to teach in Tanzania? Let's say the common language will be, if you don't speak Swahili, will be English. Or even in Europe, let's say, you see. I have some graduates from the Dance Foundation course when I was doing that, who are in Norway, Sweden. They speak Norwegian, they speak Swedish.
Amazing.
So they could see that it's important to learn language.
Yeah.
And it opens your world. And now, as we see it, the world is like shrinking, expanding and shrinking at the same time, meaning that, for example, I have a son in Korea. He speaks Korean and he started learning it here before he left for Korea.
Learning Korean in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I went there, I'm like, gosh. And it's not that easy, you know? The Japanese friend that I was telling you about, she could speak Shona, you know?
Yeah.
It opens a lot of doors, and your brain and your curiosity. Like, for example, let's say me, I can read in French and in English, for example. So even movies, I prefer to read and see things in their original version, you know. For me, it's weird to see an American movie in French.
Yeah. Yeah. I also prefer that. Yeah.
So you speak Polish, German, English. What else?
Some secret languages, but I don't disclose all of them because I need to have the element of surprise.
Okay. You speak French a bit, no? Since this session is called Alors, Danse.
Yeah, I do. At least I understand better than I speak, yes. So you already know to be a bit careful when I'm around.
Exactly. Yeah, with me, it's also Portuguese, Spanish. You know, I learned Spanish at school. German I learned at school, but when you don't practice, it's a bit, you know, the ear is still a bit there.
Trained.
And I was actually taking Portuguese at UZ at some point,
Big greeting to my colleagues at the Portuguese section.
Margaret and them, I know them,
Soukaina, we are coming to the end of the podcast.
Okay.
And what I asked every guest at the end of the podcast is if they have a specific feeling, a story, something in this country that they would describe is zimlove for them.
For me, what makes this place special, it's the people, the way they are, very welcoming, okay, I will say, and warm to the idea of getting to know where you are from, what you do, and things like that. But I think the people in Zimbabwe are quite nice. I'm not saying that they are not nice in other countries, but zimlove for me would be that. I know a lot of them. I still relate to a lot of my students, former students, and, you know, and etc. And people are quite nice here. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.